The third Prudential World Cup was played a little over 2 weeks in June 1983 in England. It was won by India when they beat the West Indies in a sensational upset in the final. It wasn't the only upset they caused. Beating England in the semi-finals, Australia before that to enter the semi-finals, and well, West Indies before that in their very first league game. They beat them twice in 3 matches. It just meant this Indian team had the right team for these conditions. It is apparent in the following findings. 11 of the 13 players who played in the tournament for India had an impact of over 1, and 6 of those had an impact of over 2, which means this was an exceptional team effort. This actually translates to 6 players did the job of more than 2 players in the tournament, and 5 did the job of at least 1 player. This kind of cohesiveness in a team is rare. The highest impact player of the tournament was Kapil Dev. This is not an expected name at all, given that he was not a star in either in the semis or the final. But he was the most consistent. He had a 0% failure rate in all the 8 matches India played in that World Cup, and that is what gave him this impact. He contributed enough in every single game he played for it to at least have 1%'s impact. As a bowler, he had the 4th highest economy impact in the tournament. This calculates the relationship between his economy rate relative to the economy rate in every match he played, and he was 4th best at that after Willis, Marshall and Hadley. He also had the highest strike rate in the tournament, bar none. A good part of that is of course due to his jaw-dropping innings of 175 not out of 134 balls, which came after India was 17 for 5 in a group game. This was easily the highest impact performance in the tournament too. What people don't remember about that match is that Kapil Dev also had the lowest economy rate amongst bowlers in that match. He bowled 11 overs for just 32 runs and 1 wicket. Given that the match yielded over 500 runs in 117 overs, that was no small achievement either. So both his tournament attributes were in that one game. The second highest impact player of the tournament was Madan Lal. He took the second highest tally of wickets in the tournament at a better economy rate than the highest, who was Roger Binny. That also made Madan Lal the highest impact bowler of the tournament, given that he got a tournament defining performance in the final with 3 for 31 in 12 overs. And he also got 17 runs out of India's meagre 183 in a match where West Indies were out for an even more meagre 140. The third highest impact player was the one everyone expects to be on top, man of the match in the semi-final and the final, Mohinder Amanath. Interestingly, though he was considered the best batsman in the world in that period by Sunil Gavaskar and Vivian Richards, his batting impact was just 3% higher than his bowling impact in that tournament. That is how much his gentle medium-pace seamers were effective in those conditions. His batting failure rate in the tournament was higher than people remember, 50%, and he had a 33% bowling failure rate too. His biggest performances came in the biggest 2 matches, hence he was a huge figure in India's campaign. When it came to just batting though, both Sandeep Patil and Yashpal Sharma were higher impact than him in the tournament. Sandeep Patil's is the most interesting story of this World Cup. No one remembers him now in this context. He was actually India's most consistent batsman, and he made runs right through the tournament, but never played the leading role, which keeps him hidden from posterity. He was 16th on a runs tally list in the tournament, but he was a crucial contributor because of his strike rate. After Kapil Dev, he had the highest strike rate in the tournament, even more than Viv Richards. In the semi-final, chasing 213, coming in at 142 for 3, with the match wide open, he produced a crackling, unbeaten 51 in 32 balls, more than twice as fast as anybody who scored any runs in that match. It was a sensational performance. And in the final, few seem to remember his 27 in 29 balls in a total of 183. He was India's second highest scorer in both matches, both made at a crashing pace in the context of the 2 games. Sandeep Patil was eventually the second highest impact batsman in the tournament, marginally behind Viv Richards, who actually got 151 runs more than him in the tournament. This is where impact can combine aspects like runs tally and strike rate and give a clearer picture. This World Cup's quirky story was perhaps Trevor Chappell's. He played 4 matches at the group stage for Australia. In his first match, he scored a searing 110 against eventual champions India, the only time he crossed 25 in his 20-match ODI career. In his next innings, he made 22, his second highest ODI score. Then he had 2 failures, and unbelievably that was the last time he played for Australia. A strangely quick fall, especially for a Chappell. Another quirky story is actually India's. Guess who the lowest impact Indian player of the tournament was? It was, unbelievably, Sunil Gavaskar, who made 59 runs in 6 innings in the tournament. The only player from the 13 who played who did not pull his weight. He was the in-house talisman though. Maybe that was his role. The only 2 matches India did not win in the tournament were the ones Gavaskar did not play in. Thank God he played in the semi-final and final. West Indies had perhaps the strongest ever side in this World Cup, and yet they lost a match for the first time in the World Cup. 2 matches, no less, both to India, once in the final. It lost to a side that had 66-1 odds before the World Cup, which had won just 1 World Cup match before this tournament against East Africa in 1975, and even lost to minor counties in the warm-up game. It changed cricket history for India though. The roots of it being the financial superpower it is today in the game lay in that World Cup triumph. West Indies, meanwhile, continued being the greatest team in the world and perhaps the greatest team of all time. They would be undefeated in tests for another 12 years. There would be 2 more World Cups in that period, but West Indies would not reach the final of either. In fact, post that, it only reached the semi-finals once in the next 5 World Cups. That 1983 World Cup final ended an era. We can safely say the 1983 World Cup was the most historically significant World Cup for cricket as a sport, not just for India.